What's up, everybody? Welcome to Southern Life. On this video we're going to talk about income inequality in Collier County, Florida, which is the third highest in the United States. There are two other places that have a higher income inequality than Collier County, Florida. However, those two places also have much higher average incomes, making the situation of inequality the worst in the entire country for this county, because like I said, the other two counties, they have much higher average incomes. The situation in Collier County is horrible. Along the coast, communities are up to 99% white, and as you get to Immokalee and further inland near the swamps, the more undesirable areas, only 3% of the population is white. Means that only white people can afford to live along the coast, with a few very rare exceptions. It's a serious situation that crosses racial and economical lines and shows that Collier County is in fact one of the worst places to be an immigrant worker in the entire country, because the odds are completely stacked against you. You will not succeed. The statistics for Immokalee of poverty are completely disastrous. Considering that Collier County is the richest county in the state of Florida, you would think that the poor people here had a decent chance of making it. However, the reality is completely false. To that, $8 an hour, single wide trailers for $1,400 a month, and the families are not able to live in those trailers with their household. They have to have other people live in them, which means many times those children are exposed to strangers, and some situations happen that most rich people would never even have to consider, having to let somebody else live around their household with their children because they can afford better for themselves. If you've been thinking about the Naples area and you have money, it's a great place to live along the wealthy areas. However, if you're a poor person, pay close attention to the income inequality that this place has. It is a place completely designed for the rich, and the poor have zero opportunity to make it out of the slums, poverty, crime, and disadvantages that they're going to face in their communities. The income for Immokalee, some places put it at $12,000, other places put it at $8,700. A lot of different online lists say a lot of different statistics. Many of these places that people are renting a room out for as much as $400 just for a room, or to lay a mattress on the floor in a living room or in a hallway. You're just paying for a place to park a bed up to $400. Many of these places don't even have air conditioners. Inland, temperatures can get into the 30s at night. If you've ever slept in a mobile home with no heater on, it is unbearably cold at night, and for about 80% of the year, unbearably hot and humid. The working conditions and the type of employment available in the area is usually collecting tomatoes or other very undesirable farm work. It is incredible how just a poor and miserable place can exist in the richest county in the state, and in a county where absolute wealth prevails. You would think that with so many wealthy people, it would be some type of opportunity for the poor to get ahead. However, about 40% of the population is below the poverty line. In other regions, even directly in the Naples area, that are statistically Latino or non-white demographic, share very similar statistics to Immokalee. In other words, it's not just Immokalee, it's all poor areas of Collier County have very undesirable statistics. High unemployment rates are not really the problem. People here work, people have jobs. High crime, low incomes, and incredibly high rents are the culprit of the poverty and misery that the residents of Collier County are facing. When you ask the locals here, and I know a lot of them, and I was recently in Naples and I talked to a lot of people, in some very bad housing, living, income situations, rent to income ratios, they always mention how there's rich people here and there's beaches. However, their hectic 50, 60 hour a week schedules don't allow much time to be on the beach, and they haven't got to that money themselves. Just because there's other rich people in the area doesn't mean you're going to get rich. If anything, I've noted while living in Naples, and many other people will tell you the same thing, that if they're in an industry where they get tips, well then the rich people tip worse than the regular people. I worked at a company that did junk removal, and many times instead of paying me for my service of junk removal, the rich people would rather donate those items. In other words, they're not donating stuff to charities because they're generous or they're kind. They're donating because they'd rather not have to pay a service to come haul it away for them. I always found it interesting how somebody who has a 10-foot high bed frame for a king-size mattress asked me, why don't you just, instead of charging me to haul this away, why don't you put it in your house? And the first thought that comes to my mind is, with as little as you're paying me, do you think I have a 14-foot ceiling in my house like you do? People here just cannot relate to the inequality that they have created by having all of their luxuries at the expense of the cheap labor that they themselves are creating. And I'm not talking garbage about the place. I'm giving you facts, statistics, and real situations so that you can understand that if you're a poor person, you don't want to be here. If you're able to live in a private community, pay an HOA fee of $300 a month, if you're able to afford a $400,000 house, and to live in a place where there's no jobs because you already have another source of income, then you might as well go for it. It is a great place to live if you're wealthy. However, if you're a working class person and you're thinking about moving to Naples, I'm going to give you a warning. This is not the type of place you want to go to if you're broke. Being around rich people doesn't make you rich. It makes you a slave and a servant to those people because you're not rich. I recently left Collier County, Florida, and I moved to Alabama. And when I show my friends here the videos of Immokalee, Florida, and Belgrade and other poor places in Florida, they are shocked at the poverty and horrible living conditions that people there face. However, along the beach, it's a completely different situation. While inland, only 3% of the population is white. Along the coast, especially right along US 41 and west of that, most areas are at least 99% white. It means that blacks and Hispanics just can't afford to live here. In Pelican Bay, incomes for a household are about $100,000, which is about 10 times more than the inland poor communities. Some communities charge an $80,000 fee to join their club, and this isn't optional. If you're buying a house in one of these more prestigious gated communities, you have to pay $80,000 a year to live there, and you are required to pay a voluntary charity. Of course, it's not really voluntary. You're forced to pay. You're supposed to give a donation because everybody in these communities are so generous that they're forced to give a donation to some type of charity if you live there. So if you're gonna move in these really fancy communities, just kind of wash your hands off a little bit on the fact that you're extraordinarily wealthy. Yeah, you'll have to pay a little bit to a charity so that everybody in the community can feel better about themselves. Even the dogs in Naples live better than some of the humans. I've met dogs in Naples who have incredibly expensive and elaborate health care, much better than what a lot of humans can afford. If you like eating out in Naples, I've spent $60 for 2 people with tip in the Naples area, which means about what a farm worker makes in a day's hard work in the sun, heat and humidity, mosquitoes, snakes, cottonmouths, and alligators that are out there in them tomato fields. But you're going to be able to spend that just on breakfast. Well, you would think that all these rich people would pay you good if you went to work for them, right? That's sadly not the case. A lot of the locals who I know who do tip jobs like pizza delivery, which I did myself, will come to the conclusion that you're better off going to a poor neighborhood than you are going to the extra wealthy neighborhoods, where not only will they not tip you, sometimes they won't even have enough to cover their meal, because if the total's $21, they might just have 20 and expect you, it's just $1. It's not a big thing, is it? It may not be for you, but it is for this pizza driver, isn't it? You'll find that working for these extra wealthy people will by no means guarantee you a chance at being wealthy. If anything, you're being taken advantage of constantly. I had a junk removal business in Naples, and I had one gentleman who lived 3 houses away from the beach. Yes, 3 houses away. So property into the millions of dollars. My fee was $240. He says, well, I'm just going to give you $120. So he got to decide how much he was going to pay me. And he thought because I had already loaded it that I would just take what he was offering, and he wouldn't offer what it was worth. He decided what he was going to pay me. Not the landfill fees or my labor, none of that matters. He decides how much he's going to pay me. I ended up grabbing everything that was on the trailer and dumping it in his driveway, blocking his vehicle. And I'm sure he had to find somebody else to haul it away. These are the types of people that are here. The more money they have, the less they can connect to the reality of a working class person. One gentleman who I was told was a billionaire, yes, with a B, he said after not making accommodations to pay me what the job was worth, he felt the job was worth $60. It was worth about $300. His idea of the whole situation was, you're lucky you got to work for me, as if working for him was a pleasure. Like I should be glad that I got to work for him. So they'll use their name and their prestige as a pass to let them do whatever they want. Everybody else is just here to serve me. Another customer that I worked for who was also labeled a billionaire, well, he didn't have 2 seconds to pay me after doing the job in a gated place. He was on the other side of the gate. He just closed the gate, walked away, and just assumed he wasn't going to pay me. Didn't have to, didn't even give it 2 seconds of thought. Couldn't get back in the community because it was gated. He figured, I'm already outside the gate, you're on the other side of that fence. Hey, your problem now. I'm set. And these are the types of situations you're going to find yourself in just because you think somebody's got money. They're actually willing to put more and more liability on the customer and even less on them. To the extent that now I live in Alabama, which is rated one of the worst places to live, and I find that people here tip better, pay better, complain less, and rarely ever contest my prices. Even though I'm charging more for my service now than I did for the wealthy, I don't have a problem here with that. But I was told by people in Naples that if I moved to Alabama, I was going to starve, and I was going to hate it, and it was going to be horrible, and the winters are brutal, and none of that's been true. In fact, yesterday was 74 degrees here in Montgomery area. My junk removal business is going to make me about twice as much money as I did in Florida. The landfill fees in Florida were ridiculous. The customers didn't want to pay. I even have people who still haven't paid me for jobs. They basically ran away on the jobs or disappeared after the jobs or during the jobs, never showed up again. I haven't had that happen here. It's a pleasure to work for people here in Alabama. They pay me better. I don't have to deal with stingy rich people trying to save a penny on me. And at the end of the day, all that money that they save up and don't pay tips to people, and all the people that they stiff for money, these are old people. They're going to die soon. And when they die, you can't take any of that money with you. Some of your kids, grandchildren, whoever's waiting for you to die is going to take that money, and they're going to run down and they're going to buy a big old rock the size of a basketball and smoke that up in your honor. That's the truthful life. You can't take it with you when you pass. And a lot of these people don't even have anybody to leave it to, really, other than their dogs, which is, you're better off being a dog in Naples than you are being a human. Jose, you talk so bad about Naples. What has Naples done to you? Well, I'll tell you what they did to me. I lived here for 20 years in poverty. Since I was 13 years old, I've been working, having to help pay my family rent, because what they made wasn't enough for rent. I'm sure when you were 13 years old, that's not what you were doing. Um, Working like a slave since I was a child for rich people who paid you nothing, who, even though, I mean, you know how it feels when you are poor and somebody who lives in a $2 million house doesn't pay you for your job, just disappears on you. They know they're catching a plane that day and they're not going to see you for a few months, and they figure, huh, but if I ran away on this guy, I'm never going to have to pay him. Do you know how it feels when you're poor and you get taken for a ride by somebody who's a millionaire? I was just in Naples, Florida. Condo on the beach, right there off of Delnor Wiggins. A big fat clumsy guy from Connecticut, owes me $40 for a job. The total was $340. He only had $300 on him, so he assumed that's what he was going to pay me. And he said, "Oh, I'll send it to you as soon as you get downstairs. I'll send it to you through Venmo or whatever." Well, he knew I was leaving Florida, and he said, "Well, once I close that gate and you're outside the gate," never answered his phone again, never answered a text, never nothing. He stiffed me for $40. He lives in a $500,000 condo there in Wiggins Pass. This big clumsy, big bird-looking turd guy for $40. Not gonna answer his phone anymore. He thinks he got me. That's the type of people you have there who, even though they live a life of luxury, yeah, they're willing to steal $40 from somebody who works like an animal for them. And are they all like that? No, absolutely not. In fact, I have a guy in Fort Myers Beach. His usual tip was $100. He would always pay me $100 more than whatever I quoted him. But that's the exception. That's definitely the exception. And not everybody's like that. Overall, I'm thoroughly disgusted in the place, to be honest. I spent 20 years of my life along Wiggins Pass Road, where I would go to the beach every day, and I just went down there on vacation. I was going to spend 3 days on the beach doing nothing but fishing. The red tide was so bad that I was almost hospitalized. I had to cut my vacation, which was really a trip to spend time with my dad, because he's there and he's elderly and I'm not going to have him forever. And I had to cut the trip short because I got so sick from the red tide. It made my eyes swell. A lot of people that I met in the area are taking all types of medicine for their sinuses and all that, because everybody's suffering from, everybody's coughing and choking and suffering from this whole red tide thing. And I could probably go on forever about all the injustices and things that I've experienced here, but I just want to relate to you, a working class person, that this is no place for you if you're poor. If you're rich, if you're able to afford it, then it's a great place. As long as, I guess now, instead of being along the coast, you want to be further inland, where you don't want to smell the red tide. I have a feeling, since it's been there for the last 3 years and only getting worse, that eventually the red tide is going to become a normal thing. It's not, and there's people, oh, there's always been red tide. It's been there forever, yes. But I lived there for 20 years, and only in the last 3 years could you smell the red tide from your house. For 17 years that we were in Naples, red tide was every year a small little pocket would have fish die. It was a normal thing, but it wouldn't be like to where you would get sick. It's only been like the last 3 years where it made humans sick. It used to be, would kill some fish, and it would kill some incredible stuff. I'm talking like you'd see like animals you had no idea existed. The only thing left to kill, I mean, I was just there right now, and the only thing that was there were catfish and these little South American fish that are in the backwater. They're not native to Florida. They're washing up on the beach. I guess the water got so bad in the backwater that they came out to the ocean where they died. So it went from incredible, like you'd see groupers and sharks and all types of weird, not sharks, but you'd see like, I don't know, all these weird fish. You had no idea what they were during the red tide that would wash up, and all these incredible strange animals. And it's at the point now where the only thing that washes up is practically catfish. That's the only thing that's left in the water to wash up, and very small ones at that. It's gotten to the point where I believe that the red tide is going to become a normal thing in Naples, and eventually, if you are moving there, if you're able to afford living here, I would probably look into being further inland, like the Golden Gate Estates or Ave Maria, or in Estero east of 75, so you're not along the coast, because I don't think that this red tide thing is going to go away. It's just getting worse, and no, it is not normal for the red tide to be this bad. I've lived there for 20 years, like I said. In the first 17 years, it never was a problem. It's the last 3 years consecutively has actually been getting progressively worse, and it's going to destroy the entire economy, and possibly even the real estate market is going to go to crap, because this is something that's not going away. A lot of people are just looking the other way. They're making it seem like it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal when people are getting sick. I mean, that's like living next to, I don't know, a nuclear plant, or living next to some radiation field in Chernobyl or something. I found a house on the internet the other day that was really affordable in a really expensive town. And the house is affordable because it's right next to the waste treatment plant for the county. So it's one of those deals where, you know, living along the beach went from being, you know, there's $3 million houses. Actually, there's $3 million pieces of land right on the beach in Naples. The land itself is worth that much. Now you're talking the land is worth $3 million. When this red tide thing keeps going and going and getting worse and worse and worse, eventually, what's that land really going to be worth? Because it's all speculation. So there you have it. The county in Florida with the third highest income inequality in the country. It's a very bad situation to be poor here. I was poor here for 20 years, and I can tell you that it was the roughest ride of my life. And now that I live in Alabama, where it's more affordable, my living conditions have improved dramatically. I'm able to do things I never thought I'd be able to do living in Alabama. I thought when I moved to Alabama I would have to kind of constrict my economy and just hold on tight and hope. But no, it's definitely hasn't been the case at all. It's actually been really great. I'm doing stuff I never thought I would ever be able to do. And I try to tell my loved ones that live here, hey, you know, you're not living right. This isn't working out for you. You're not ever going to get anywhere. And they're like, well, I live next to the beach. Or, well, there's so many rich people here. I'm just going to keep licking their... Oh, you know, and I'm just like, man, I'm trying to tell you there's better things out there. There's places where you can make a living. They won't listen. And they're going to continue to live in this fantasy world. And when they become too old to work, I don't know what's going to happen to these people when they're not able to work like slaves anymore, and then they still have to pay a rent because they don't even have real estate. I try to tell them, hey, you know, they don't want to hear it. People are okay serving rich people and thinking that they're special because they get to serve rich people. I don't care if you're rich or poor. If you ain't paying me right, I ain't working for you. So this is today's video, which I thought I would do a contrast video showing the richest areas and showing the poorest areas. And here it is. I hope you guys liked the video, and you don't have to agree with me. We can be friends and have different opinions. We all went through different experiences in our lives. Your experience could have been on the other side of the tracks, and you could have had a completely different outlook about everything. My perspective has been being poor in a place that has the third highest income inequality in the country, so my views can be as extreme as the situations that I was put through. Just because we don't agree on a subject, that doesn't mean we can't be friends. So you can follow me on YouTube and we can have a relationship even though we have different views. Just because we don't agree on something, that doesn't mean we have to hate each other. Anyways, that's the video. I hope you guys like it. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and if you don't like the video, please explain why. And if you're one of those people that's there right now and you just ain't living right, you need to stop being a coward. Stop being a coward. Get a little brave. Make some moves. There's no gain without risk, and if you're not taking risk, you're never going to get ahead. There was a time when Naples was a great place to live, whether you were rich or poor. Those days are long over. It's time to wake up. Jose, hope you liked this video. Check it out. From Alabama. Might take the day off tomorrow.